What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another edition of Define Your Legacy. I'm your host, Theus Elijah McBee. All right, before we tap into today's episode, just want to shout out our online store of Define Legacy, all right, which can be found in the link in the description of this episode. We have t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, and a whole lot more. All right, so feel free to check out the online store in the description of this episode. All right. And speaking of this episode, we have Renea Dentman on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if you don't mind, just introducing yourself and tell the world what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Renea Dentman. I go by Miss Notary Consultant. So I help notaries become business owners in the space. And so I'm a corporate accountant by trade. I have helped Fortune 500 get to where they are just by the startup concept. And so I said, why not take that to the streets and kind of really show the people that need it the most?
Mm. And how did you get started in this business? Like what inspired you to really tap into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about my background. I started another business before that, so it always has this ups and downs. I really wanted to find something that was a really good niche. I have a couple of my friends, they started businesses and they became successful, pretty much millionaires, to be honest. And I saw their struggles and I saw how dedicated they were. So I was looking for something that fit me, right? So with just my degrees and my schooling and things to that nature, I thought that I found a really good niche where not that many people was talking about accounting, taxation, business structure, right? In this particular field. And a lot of people don't know a lot about notary. They think a notary, an elderly person that's at the bank, stamping documents and things like that. Well, it goes beyond that, right? And so I felt that something in the legal field, but also something that in the business world that I can provide the accounting space for. And I think nothing but God.
Mm,
I do really, really well in my industry.
mm. So what exactly? And I have to ask just from I'm gonna start from a beginner in stage one. What exactly is a notary?
Okay, excellent. So a notary, so excellent. So a notary is someone who utilize legal documents, right? So in order for that to happen, you have to be able to identify the client, right, on any other legal documents that they need. So, for example, you're trying to get your child birth certificate. Well, you have to be able to you have to be able to get those documents stamped from a legal perspective. So I say all of that to say a notary is someone who is hired by the Secretary of State of each state that is licensed to be able to perform identification, verification that that person is who they really are,
Mm,
right? And so banks cannot get funded without notaries. Presidents can't go into office without a notary. Buildings can't go up without a notary, right? And people can't pass away without a notary. So a notary is an intricate that is involved in the back scene a lot.
okay. And is it a business and an industry where you feel like you've had to seek out clients, or has it been something where it's like, okay, you know where to look kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's like both, right? So there's two levels of notaries, right? There's a notary level one and a notary level two. That's what Miss Renee says, right? So a level one is the traditional notary that provides that general notary work, right? And so the next one is a notary level two, which is a loan signing agent. So a loan signing agent is the ones that specialize in real estate documents, right? Specialize in real estate documents, you're able to um, not have to seek out so hard for your client because it's a need that is being fulfilled.
Mm,
So, talking about one, just like general notary work, such as Google My Business, right? You get yourself on a lot of different directories, right?
mm,
So, if they search notary near me, you pop up, right? Versus general versus loan signing, it's more so they come for you. They need someone that specializes in this. So, you just put yourself on a different type of database. That's
okay. And I know obviously now with us being in different times with COVID and a global pandemic, is everything virtual, or is some of it like in person, or like do you have to
That's a really
physically
great
be
question.
there?
So currently, right now, I'm located in California, right? So we have a bill right now that is out to get our entire state to be um, RON, which is remote online, RON. And a lot of people don't know that the general notary, general space of people that need the service, they don't know that each state has their own rule. Each state is allowed to do certain things. So, for example, Virginia, they are Ron certified. Michigan, they're Ron certified. Florida, they're Ron certified. Um, and beyond, right? But when you go to states like California, we're not there yet. And it just occurred in the last like 10 years of just Ron being where it is today. So if a citizen from any state wanted to get something notarized, yes, it's possible. It's just depending on where you are and where the notary is to make that transaction possible. I know if a client is in California, although California notaries cannot notarize online, but they can go to Virginia Notary and get the same work done, even though they're in California.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like the loopholes between it. But I'm not able to do it right now, but a lot of my notaries in my uh, company are able to.
Yeah. And let me ask you, when you were younger, right, did you ever think that you would be a notary? Did you ever like have?
That's a really good question. No, I didn't. When I was younger, I knew I was going to be an attorney.
Mm.
And a lot of attorneys are notaries, right? In this space. Like they are a notary, then they are paralegal, and then they become an attorney. So that's just my journey. So my studying, even though I got several degrees, lawyer is one of the degrees that I will get before I
Okay. And I asked because I feel, I mean, maybe I could be completely wrong, but I feel like that's an industry that either doesn't get talked about as much, or not a lot of people may be completely familiar with it in terms of
Oh,
other things.
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. I have my master's in accountancy and I never thought I would be a notary.
mm,
Didn't think about it, didn't want to do it, didn't really know much. Just the lady at the bank. They
mm,
can only make a couple dollars, right?
yeah.
Not until like someone actually told me and sat me down and I was able to run numbers through them.
Mm,
And then that's when the numbers made sense,
mm.
right? So yeah.
But so when someone either sat you down or they broke down the game to you, was there a spark or like a moment where you realized like, oh wow, this, I'm really going to
Yeah,
do this and take it
absolutely.
seriously.
Absolutely. So being an entrepreneur, well, my life, um, we'll get there eventually. But my life, I've been a hustler ever since. Like you tell me any side job, anything, I always test it out for myself because I always was looking for extra income, no matter if I had a fancy corporate job or not. I was always looking for how can I make an extra reserve. So my ears are always open to the streets of what's the newest thing, right? So we were at a bar, and Miss Renee, you would never catch her at a bar, right? But I am a sorority of Zeta Phi Beta, and it was a MPHC event for just bringing in the new year. So my sorority sister was there, and entrepreneur to entrepreneur, she said, I said, okay, so what do you do? And then she said, oh, I am a loan signing agent. I'm a notary. And I was like, oh, notary. Okay, that's not entrepreneurship. I actually
Mm,
look down. I'm not even scared to say that. I look down on her a little bit. I was just like, a notary, they don't make money. Why would you
yeah.
think that you're an entrepreneur, right? Like in my head, right?
Mm,
But then, we tend to judge people, right? So I have a side of myself that let me run a number. If numbers make sense, know your numbers. All right. So I start punching at her, right? So I was like, okay, so how much do you make? She was an executive assistant with a very, really good company. And she said she does this on the side. I said, all right, cool. So what do you make in a month? She said, I don't know what I make in a month, but I know what I make in a month and a half.
mm.
I said, what is that? He said about 25, $3,000. Hmm? From a side gig, you make about $3,000 from a month and a half, about 6 weeks. Most people don't make that.
Mm.
Okay. What do you do again? So that's how
Yeah,
the conversation started.
yeah. No, it's funny. That I was getting ready to ask. So you didn't mind like asking her how much she made? Like,
Oh,
I
so
didn't.
that's a
You
little
didn't
bit
care?
different. I'm a little bit different.
Oh.
So, my parents never made me. I don't know if it has. Well, I guess it has to do with respecting or not. But my I just heard it from my sister too, one of my sister friends, that all of my family, daughters and sons, we never was ashamed or felt that it was insulting asking someone for their how much they make, right? Or how old are they, right? That was just something that we didn't really speak well into it. So to me, I don't mind asking somebody how much they make. I don't mind asking somebody, um, is it a good paying job and what is good paying to you, right? Um, it just allowed me to get more insight, right? Because if I never asked that question, let's be honest, I don't think I'll be in the space that am now, right? So I look at it like this. I'm not asked a question, you know, answer or you're not. And then from there, I'll be able to kind of stage the next question.
Mhm.
I'm a question seeker person.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that she was able to be honest with me. But I do also know that she was my sorority sister too, right? So she was going to be more real with me than the average person, right?
Yeah.
Asking some questions like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important too. I mean, like when we talk about money and stuff like that, I know obviously it's a sensitive area or topic for some people, but at the same time, we don't have to waste time in, trying to start a business that, isn't going to make money.
no,
Um,
absolutely.
and it really, really is that simple. But so when you talked to her, I believe you said she was doing this on the side, right?
Yes, that's the crazy part. That's why it really made sense to me.
Yeah.
Like everything else I dropped from just being whatever I was doing,
Yeah.
right? I was just like, that don't make all of this to be a side gig.
Mhm.
And so I didn't know, like she was using fancy words at the time. Loan signing agent? What the heck is a loan signing agent? Right? Loan, but you don't need a license and you're no like I had no idea. I didn't purchase a house, right? I wasn't in the home ownership, right? So I don't really know that language. And they don't teach us it, right?
Mm.
So I was definitely um, blessed because she didn't just bless me; she allowed me to bless others
Mm.
um, from just being in the field that I am.
Mm. Yeah, that's real, especially the last part. She allowed you to kind of bless others. I think too, when you're in kind of like a client-based business or you're just working with other people, it's always a reminder, kind of what other people are going through. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's crazy. So do you feel like this is something that people could do on the side, or is it something that most people should probably consider doing full time?
That's a really good question. So let me just put it to you like there's people that are 18-year-old that are testimonies how much they made, and there's people all the way up to 72 on YouTube that have testimonies of being a loan signing, right? The last one that I just sent was she made 42,000 at 72 years old a month versus the
What-
18-year-old made $6,000, right, a month. So the range is wonderful for those that are retired and they're just looking for something to do, right, to keep their mind going and their mental. This is something great, and you work on your own, right? You want to work one hour a day, you can. Versus someone that's 18 years old that may not want a college degree, right? That have some debt or trying to get to the next thing or can't even go to college because they don't have the money. I
Mm.
tell people today that, hey, I know people currently right now that are notaries bring in extra income to send their child to college. And the numbers work. You just need to plug in how much you need and you can produce how many orders you need.
Yeah. And it's cool too. You mentioned the 18-year-old because one of my next questions was going to be, do you need a college degree to really?
That's the crazy part. I'm a little bit mad at myself. I'm a little bit because I'm 31 years old and I can't believe I'm about to be 32, right, in July. And I found out about this when I was 28.
Mm.
Well, no, 29,
Mm.
right? And that's only 2.5 years ago. If only I would have known. In college, I worked 4 jobs,
Mm.
right? And they were like graveyard shifts,
Yeah.
still going to college. I wasn't even making half of that.
Mm.
2000 would have been great for me in college to make as a student being 18 years old.
Mm.
So, yeah, but your mind has to be right. You got to want something out of life in order to do it. I tried to pitch this to my nieces and nephews, right? But if their mind not right, You can tell somebody something great, right? But at the same time, they don't see what you see,
Mm.
right? So if your mind is right, oh man, you can make a killing in it. And sometimes, and that doesn't mean that you're 18 years old. That can just mean if you're 30 or you're 40. Um, but if your mind is right and you want to create an empire, you want to create extra income, you don't even have to stay in it. This can be the cash flow that leads to the next vehicle, right? It's just a vehicle in it. But it's going to make you some fast cash the
Yeah,
legal way. That's what.
the legal way. Gotcha. But you know what though? So right now, up until this point of this conversation, everything has sounded great and wonderful, right? You know, you've explained what it is, and how you've kind of started in the industry. But now I want to talk about um, the rough days. I want to talk
Ooh.
about the days that may not get posted on social media. The days where whether you were studying and things weren't going your way, or you had to deal with a client that was um, not ideal. I'll word it that way. And the only reason why I asked that is because I understand that with social media, the glamour is always posted, right? But the journey sometimes isn't always acknowledged. So what would you say are some things that some obstacles that either you faced or someone else may face on their journey to being a notary?
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'd love to share a couple, right? I think it's mentality, right? I created this one campaign talking about running a half marathon campaign in your business, right? Because you saw someone else made $6,000 in their first 30 days and you didn't, that can really mentally mess you up. You see what I'm saying? Because you got in it because you needed that money.
Mm.
Someone else made they first the same time that they came in the industry. The average that you'll make is about $75 per hour, right? Is the average. But you see somebody else was able to scale their business where they made their first $200 for the same thing that you do at 75. That can mentally mess you up, right? You can give in the towel. Getting your first order, right? It may take me a week to get my first order versus you, it can take 2 months,
Mhm.
6 months. And why is it the difference? Because you don't know the game,
Mm.
right? Because you don't know the game. You saw on YouTube that, oh my God, I can make $200 an hour. I can do $100 an hour. But you sitting there like you just invest a whole $1,000 because the
Mhm.
printer alone is gonna cost you about $400,
Mm.
right? To get the printer that we need. So you upside down in your business that you call a business and you ain't making no money. You spending a lot of money. Man, that would run your way because it's more of liquidating, but not bringing in any assets or cash, right?
Mm.
So I hear it all the time. But in the actual work itself, having a reader, having a reader is one of the worst things that you can have. You got 150 documents that you got to get through. On average, it's like to sign, it's not 150, but it's $150 that you print it out.
Mm.
Somebody want to read the deed? That's like 20 pages itself.
Yeah.
That's the ownership of the house, right? You reading the deed? I'm not getting paid per hour. I'm getting this is a fixed rate.
Mm.
I'm only getting paid 75, and I'm sitting here for 2-3 hours. Man, like that is a setup a little bit, but you can't control that. You can't just pack up your stuff and leave now. You got to sit there and actually perform the services that they purchase. Driving. One of the things is a lot of people don't glorify that this is a driving job, no matter what you look at it or not. So if you're not interested in driving, maybe this is not for you. But you will drive, and if you mess up, people don't talk about that mess ups, right? Mess up meaning you miss a signature on that deed. They can't fund. No one can move forward. Nobody can eat. The loan officer, the signing agent, the realtor, no one can eat because you messed up and you missed the signature on the most important document, right? So you got to go back. And you ain't getting paid to go back.
Mm.
Now you got to tell everybody you messed up. And you wondering now why the heck that you missed the signature, right? You didn't do your job well. So that's one of the things that people don't really talk about is the mess up and the discipline of driving. It's lucrative. It's a really great opportunity. And your mind stays sharp, right? I love it because you start seeing other people's business, right? And I'm one of those people. I want to know because I
Mm.
want to be somebody, right? I want to make it to wherever God has for me. And sometimes you got to kind of learn a little bit where people don't want to say. So you see how much people making, you see where they living, you getting more access than you ever did. And you start to live the life that you really maybe want, if that's what you want. So I go to mansions. I'm in Beverly Hills, right? So I'll go to Beverly Hills like, oh my God, any other time I would never even got access to come in. They said, hey, you want some water at the table? Like little old me, right?
Yeah.
So access is a privilege, right? And so it's a level of access, it's a level of respect. They see me with my briefcase on, they think that I'm important. You walk into banks, right? And they set you up, right? Because it's a bank closing. And they think, and everybody else, they're looking at you like you're the most important thing in the room. It's a little nice little feeling sometimes.
Mm. And so I can just hear, everything you're saying, that sounds like you're a numbers person.
Oh, totally.
You mentioned numbers a lot, and I'm taking note of like just the idea of margins, right? You mentioned, I think, like 400 whatever for a printer. So even though you might think, okay, yeah, I made this amount doing a job, if it costs you more, right, to start that business, or if it costs you so much to, you know, get active with it, and then you make X amount, then did you really come up? And obviously, when you look at the bigger picture, of course, the answer should be yes. But my question is, how important and relevant is numbers and margins to you?
Oh, it's important. It is. I need my ROI. I need to
Mm,
know what my margins are. I need it to make sense. So I do consultation, and part of that is when you get on a transformation call with me, I'm asking you what's your bottom line. Most people never even heard of that. What you mean, Miss Renee, by your bottom line? How much do you need to maintain your household? And they like, never. Well, let's get on it. We calculate. How much is mortgage? How much is rent? How much is your utility? How much is your gas? So once I give you your bottom line, now I got numbers to work with.
mm,
So how you want to scale your business? How many orders you need to get? I do from a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a bi-weekly, and it makes sense to the average person because once you get into this, when you tired, when that order came through and you're like, man, they want an ASAP and they willing to give me $200, but I just got in the house and I'm tired and it's cold outside.
mm,
Well, did you hit your bottom line? No, so go back out. You
mm,
see what I'm saying? It's only
yeah.
45 minutes to an hour. If you're
Mm,
good, it's 30 minutes.
mm,
But numbers make sense to me, right? And I understand that we get paid pretty much like under the table, right? Because we don't pay taxes on the money. Just like an Uber driver don't get paid tax on the money, a waitress doesn't get paid tax on the money until the end of the year. So everything has to really make sense. And that's just for any entrepreneur listening to this, right? Most of the money that we receive, we don't pay tax on it, right? And at the end of the year, when we file our taxes, all the income that we report, we hit with that, right? Unless you don't write it off, you don't do deductions, you don't have
mm,
exemptions. So it had to make sense for me because one thing that I didn't tell you is being a notary is tax exempt. It's a killer. So when we make money, that huge portion of the money that we receive, we don't have to pay tax on because we are a public servant to our state. And only two people in the world can do that, a minister and a notary. So it real makes sense to me.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
said
yeah.
I could go out there and make $300 and pay like maybe $50 on taxes. Oh,
Mm,
that makes sense, right?
yeah. But yeah, taxes are something else. Like, it's not even like a love them or hate them kind of thing. Obviously, everyone hates them. But it's true what they say. Everyone is rich until it's tax time. Everyone is making money until it's time to pay back the government and stuff. But is that a challenge though? Having the mental strength to know and remember, like, all right, I made this amount of money, right? But I didn't really
Oh
necessarily
no,
make this
absolutely not.
amount.
Absolutely not. So there's systems for notary. So there's accounting systems specifically for notary. So Notary Gadget, Notary Assist, VinBooks are currently in the market. So once you put your order in, just like it's a calendar, right? You got an appointment for this time, you had an appointment for this podcast or whatever the case is. you start your portfolio. And then at that moment, you just put how much you put in it, and it'll run a profit and loss statement for you, how many exemptions, stamps you put. It's very streamlined. So that's one of the things where I really loved it, because people already invented these softwares that are going to help benefit our industry.
Mm. But see, even that is important too, right? Is taking advantage of the softwares that have been created. And not everything I feel like you do in business has to be on your own.
Oh, absolutely. I've
Like,
come across people that, oh, I'm running out. Okay, what accounting system are you using? Oh, I'm doing Excel or, Square.
mm,
I'm sorry. So that's where my profession, my skill sets come in, where I teach our industry how
mm,
to move forward of being a business owner. What
mm,
does that really mean? Not just bringing in money and cash flow. Being a loan signing agent, bringing money. But the question is, what do you know do with your money, and how
mm,
you know structure your business? So
mm,
therefore, when IRS comes, how are you going to keep your money and strategize with it,
mm,
right? Or put it in nice investments, right? Because one of the things that people don't talk about often is, although we're tax exempt, that means that we're not paying into our SSI or our Medi-Cal, right? So if you're not paying into your Medi-Cal, your SSI, what does that happen? You don't got a retirement. So now what are you going to do? You got to build your own retirement, right? So therefore, what is a Roth IRA? What is an IUL? What are all of these other things that you can put your money in there and it can compound, right? And then therefore you have the exact same thing. So you're not waiting for Social Security when you get like what, 62 years old?
mm,
You have it now and you have more benefits. So I take it to the next level,
mm.
right?
So what does that mean to you as well, though? Like making money and then either initially putting it to the side or initially pouring it back into the business? Because I think we see a lot of entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs make money, right? Get happy and then blow it, or make money and then feel like they're living in a cycle. So do you put a level of importance on that?
Yes, I do. The level. So let me just be very transparent. The
Mm,
first like 1 to 2 years in the business, you are reinvesting that money into your business in any way possible. Even if you get a new vehicle, right? That's going to help you in that. You get new tires, you get this. You're always going to have a huge expense. So you're taking care of your bottom line, but you only got a little bit extra, right? 9 times out of 10 before something emergency happens. But yes, I definitely stress saving, having a reserve, putting an account specifically for taxes, right? So you have a bank account, but you need a tax account, right? To make sure that when tax season comes, you overfunded it. So because of the fact that you overfunded it, all the rest can go into your investment account,
mm,
your mutual funds, your whatever you need. But I really stress the fact, even Acorn, right? I don't know if you know what Acorn
yeah,
is, but I
yeah,
stress that too. Meaning, hey, just a little helps, right?
yeah,
So absolutely,
yeah.
I talk about that a lot when it comes to that. But I talk
Yeah, I
about
know what Acorns is, and just the idea too that a little can go a long way. I think
yes, I would
people
just
put
add it.
yeah, people put such an emphasis on putting like if you don't have a lot of money to invest, then you don't do it. But it's like even I think the belief and just the mindset towards all right, whether it's a percent of your income or whatever the case may be, you have to make sure that you're putting money in a safe spot or in a spot where it's going to grow. Um,
One of the big things that I talk about a lot about saving is we always on the other side of the table. So when you come to a living room table or a dinner table, the notary sits on one side and the investors or the bar sits on the other side, right? We're only the guests in the house. We're not the people that live in the house. And 9 times out of 10, we don't got a house, right? So because of that, I teach put that money aside, because when the opportunity comes, now we're going to be on the other side of the table. We're going to be the ones that signing those documents and not leaving the house because we own the house, right?
yeah.
So shifting that mindset of like, hey, you're walking into these houses, but one day it's going to be your house because you know
Mm,
everything about it. Now we just need to keep that grinding and putting that money.
mm. And that's cool too. I mean, I'm sure in your journey of being a mobile notary, you've probably seen some either crazy things or things that the everyday person may not have seen. Um, So is there anything that you feel like has stood out in your journey of being a notary?
Crazy, crazy, crazy. That's a good question. I think one of the craziest things that I have seen is when you get to the table, the loan officer does not explain the documents, right, to the actual borrower. So when you sit at the table, you would think that they already had these documents legally, right? But this is the first time they even seen it.
Mhm.
So they're looking at you like, can you explain this to me? Right? They're looking at you like, I'm not prepared to sign this because these numbers are not right. Right? Or this is the first time I'm looking at it. So I think at that moment, it's crazy when they pick up the phone, they call the loan officer, right? And then the loan officer say, remember we talked about this? And the borrower sitting up there like, no, we didn't, right? Remember that you said this? And the borrower's like, no. And you stuck in the middle, like delivering the papers,
Right,
right?
right,
And I just need your signature. And you like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And they got them on speakerphone, so you hearing the conversation, everything.
right.
And so it's just an awkward feeling sometimes. It's very rare, but it's an awkward feeling. But it's so much rich in that because this can happen to you. This can happen to your family member. This can happen to your best friend that's trying to buy a house, right? So just kind of seeing these experiences, I think it's always like a lesson into it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you caught up in the middle of just, I ain't make these documents, I'm just the paper lady,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
I'm just
Yeah,
the
like
paper
look,
pusher,
yeah.
right?
It's
I
not
have
me, okay?
right, right. I'm not the enemy. And they
Right.
say that all the time. I know it's not you, but you're the only one that they see. Throughout this whole transaction, they didn't see the loan officer, they didn't see the real estate, they didn't see half of these people, especially if it's a refinance. You represent everybody, even the escrow title. So I say all of that to say, yeah, you stuck in the middle, right? So you got to be trained up for that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's probably an unfortunate part of it. It's like you're looked at as being the one, right?
Right.
The person that's like, okay.
Right.
But what are some, and I'm trying to think too of things or places or people where a notary is needed.
Places. So a notary is needed everywhere. So for example, a notary can be needed for, let's just say you lost your ID, right? You have none of, people happen all the time. You can't get your passport because you don't have your birth certificate, right? It's back home somewhere, right? Well, the immigration department is going to say, no, we need a birth certificate. Well, in order to get your birth certificate, you need a notary to identify who you are, right? Let's just say you have a child, right? And the parents are not traveling together, right? Well, that child need a passport. In order for that child to get a passport to go out of the country with their actual child, they need a notary to notarize that to get their passport, even if one child goes. For a trust document, a lot of people don't talk about trust, right? Which is, you hear about a will, but you don't hear about to avoid probate for it, right? So parent families get torn apart because of the fact that somebody died, they had money, and now you see the truth out of somebody that needs the money the most, right? Well, you don't have to go through that. That's a trust before they actually pass away. Advance directive, right? People are pregnant, right? You go into hospitals right now, they say you need advance directive. In order to be advance directive, that has to be notarized, right? Anything that when you think of it, people don't think about it. A letter to do an affidavit, right? Somebody saw an accident, right? And you try to make the insurance. Well, in order for that affidavit to be legalized, right, it got to be notarized, right? To pull your car out of the tow path, right? The tow, they want a letter to be notarized that that's your car. So I can go on and on and on with a lot of different scenarios, but it's just real life. When you find yourself in a situation like, dang, I need a notary, right? That's when it's gonna happen.
But do you feel like you can be like an introvert or like not have a lot of like a strong social media presence and still be a notary? That makes sense? Like, because obviously, when you're dealing with clients and stuff, it's convenient for them to know who you are and see your profile and things like that. But for someone who may want to start, but doesn't have a strong social presence. You think that's doable?
Yes, I definitely think that's doable to have a strong social media presence. Do you mean like having a red cup and like drinking and things like that being on social media? Or are you just saying like a little bit of a celebrity? Like, give me a little bit more for me to understand, like, in what
Yeah,
context.
yeah. So I mean, more so a little bit of a celebrity. Like, is it that people need to see that you are actually a notary, or can like if someone were to just want to start, would they need like a strong reputation, I guess, if you will? Um,
So let me tell you what a notary concept is. So the notary image is a trustworthy person. When you say that you're a notary, automatically they think blue, right? The sign blue, the color psychology is like you're trustworthy, right? You're gonna do the right thing, right? They know what they you just automatically, no matter if you are somebody in your real life is not trusted, but the moment that you put that badge on or that
mm,
stamp and you come into somebody's house, they listen. No matter
mm,
if you're attorney, their attorney, they are educated, they listen to you because at the end of the day, you're trustworthy and you were the one that sent out to do the job.
mm,
So, do they look up you? Yes, they do. They look up your name, they look up everything and things like that because you're handling their investment property, you're handling something important. A lot of people don't know that the most important purchase that you have is a mortgage, right?
mm.
And because of that, you have to provide a lot of stuff. So they do look you up. But does that stop you from getting the job? I would say no.
Mm.
But I always teach and I always show from example. So you won't catch Miss Renee doing stuff that is not within the lines of just professional.
Of course.
So I always let people know, like, hey, you need to be professional, right? And you need a professional photo. You need professional image. So all of those things is pretty much what I talk
Yeah. I mean, social media is, it's definitely your online resume. Whether you like it or not, people definitely um, judge and view you based off what you post, unfortunately, but that's just kind of how, especially in business, like, if someone's going to pay you, they're definitely going to analyze what it is that you post and things like that. So I know you have consultations and things like that, right? I know you have clients that you speak to often enough. But what would you say to someone, right? Like, let's say we were starting from the top and someone wanted to be a mobile notary or a loan signing agent, right? They watch this episode and now they're interested. What would be like the steps, or like how would you direct them to?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically people come to me not because they want to, they come to me because they want me to scale their business. They did all the steps that I'm going to let you know before, and then they come to me because they're like, okay, it's not working,
Mm,
right? Or I make only $1,000. How do I scale to be 3 to 5 or 6?
mm,
Or I don't want to run around with a chicken with my head cut off anymore. So what can I do to scale and still make money? Because there's millionaires in the notary industry. I can name two right now. Made Forbes. But you was a notary?
mm.
How is that possible? Right? So from just the sustainability, that's what I coach on. To think outside and be a business owner, right? But the steps to take is get your notary license. Commission. People like to call it a license bag. It's an actual commission. So how do you get it? You go to your Secretary of State. You just look online, you call them, or you can go to the NNA, which is the National Notary Association, and it'll break down each individual state for free of what are the steps to take. So let me just use California for example, right? California is the hardest place to be a notary, right? Why? Because it's multiple steps. I'll use Missouri for example, also. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So the steps for Missouri: you literally call the Secretary of State. You take a open book exam, right? Where it's an application and it has like 30 questions that you just answer. And then you pay like, I want to say $30, and then they send you your commission.
Mm.
That's simple, right?
Yeah.
You didn't even have to do anything. They do an internal background check on you, but you didn't know that, right? And then they give you a commission.
Mm,
Let's go to California. And now New Jersey is this way too, right? and people are changing to be this way. Well, before you can even sit to take the exam, you got to do a 6-hour course with a certificate. So you have to pay to take a course that teach you the notarial law. Okay? Once you do that, and it can be online or in person. It's like traffic school. You can take it online or you can do it in person, right? It's only 6 hours. And so you have your certificate. You know that you want to move forward. You got to take a state proctoring exam, just like the bar, just like being a nurse practitioner or nurse. You have to literally go to a proctoring exam to take the state exam. The state exam is literally about 45 questions, 1 hour. You take it. At that moment, you'll find out in 2 weeks if you pass or not. After that, now you submit your application to be a notary.
Yeah.
And when you submit the application, you got to go and take a background test. You got to pay for it, which is like $75, right? So you got to go take an FBI and DOJ background screening called a live scan, right? So our process is a little bit more intense to be a notary, right? Because we have high real estate fraud, right?
I believe it.
So that has happened, and since 2008. So since 2008, when the mortgage crashed, what happened? A lot of loan officers were doing not legal things, and there was no like regulation. Now, to be a loan officer now, you got to take a state proctoring exam to be a loan officer. Before, you didn't have to do that for residential property, right? You can just be a loan officer, and that's it. Since 2008, they stopped that across the nation. Everybody has to take this. I believe like I don't even know how many hours it is. I think it's like 40 hours training before you can sit for the board to take a license. And so things are shifting, but it's to protect the people that are really doing these big investments and doing these.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to kind of think about your overall story and kind of how you got started in the business, and now you're helping people scale their business, right? And how you kind of, one of the first times you heard about it, you should have asked, how much money, they were making from it, which I think is pretty cool, just, in terms of you saving time, and to now see where you're at now. It's definitely amazing. And that leads me to the final question that I have for you. And it's a question that I ask everyone that's been on Define Legacy. And that question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, that's really great. I actually came across this question like yesterday because one of the people that I actually follow, she actually posted something that was really inspiring. Let me pull it up real quick. It was not Lisa Ray. Who was
Is it
it?
Lisa Ray?
No, it wasn't Lisa Ray. I came across Lisa Ray. The girl from Insecure. What's her name?
Okay, Issa Rae,
Yeah, Issa Rae. So one of the things is they read, I saw an article. In 2010, Issa Rae tweeted, "When I grow up, I want to be a more successful version of me." 11 years later, she directs one of the most powerful HBO shows, Insecure. And so I retweeted that. I said, that makes sense. I just want to be a more successful version of myself. And that's what I want people to remember me. Remember me where I'm at now and see how far I can go, right? But I'm still the same person. And I think that was powerful. But I don't want things to look amazing. And I want people to know a little bit of my story. So I'm just going to put it in a little bit, if that's okay. I left my house when I was 13. I became on my own when I was 15. So life doesn't look that easy. Don't let the hair, the nails, and the looks be deceiving, right? I work for what I got, and I'm still working if you really know who I am. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, grinding in the business, right? And so having the life that I have now is just to show that the seeds that I put before, right? I went to college. I got my master's. I have a lot of different degrees. But remember, that means nothing when you're an entrepreneur. You start exactly where everyone at, ground zero, trying to figure out what is this life being an entrepreneur, right? So have I cried? Yes. Have I won? Yes. Have I failed? Yes. Have I learned? Yes. So just know that this is a rinse and repeat type of industry where you're going to have all type of good days, bad days, but just know that you are the person that you were, right? And now who are the person that you want to become? And
Mm.
lastly, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? So my grandma always told me that. So if you don't open your mouth, how you think you're going to get the answer? So Miss
Mm.
Renee is never worried about asking the right question or asking the question. If I never ask the question, how much money do you make? I would never be on your podcast or even hearing or meeting you.
Mm.
So I appreciate everything.
Yeah. Do you think you said you were 13 when you left home, right?
Yes, sir.
What would the how do you think the 13-year-old you would feel about the you of today?
Well, my mama, let me tell you what my mama said. She said nothing different about me, right? Somebody that is, they know what they want. They ain't gonna let you stop it when they get to where they are. She always talk about when I fell off my bike, ain't want nobody to help me get up,
Mm.
right? It was just like that's the tomboy in Miss Renee,
Mm.
right? And I think the younger version to see where I came now, I think she'll high five me.
Mm.
I think she would say, "You're still doing exactly what was made out of you, right?
Mm.
Someone that falls but get right back up and teach others." That's what the adder was. Because I couldn't teach somebody at 13, right? But I surely can teach somebody now that I'm 30.
Yeah. And there's a lesson in all that with the experience, comes wisdom and everything like that. So, if you could, right, just drop your social media. Where can people find you? Your website. I know you want to talk about the conference and everything like that. So feel free to mention everything you got going on and where people can add you on social.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a YouTube called Miss Notary Consultant. If you just want to learn a little bit more, that's free game. I have a podcast, which I'm loving the life, just like you. It's called Notary Gems, and you can find that on Spotify or Anchor on a lot of different platforms. We're officially on Google, and so we're reaching to be on Apple. Instagram, Miss Notary Consultant. Facebook, Miss the Notary Gems Facebook group. I drop a lot of free gems there, and I'm pretty sure I started recently. What is called the video one? Sorry,
TikTok,
TikTok. So Miss Notary Consultant.
the
Yeah, I
video
just
one,
started one. Yeah, I like the video one. So I
the
always call
video one.
myself, I'm an old lady, right? I'm trying to get with the times, right?
That's
I'm
funny.
like, oh, I'm like, yeah, my daddy, 80 years old. I come from old age. Like, shoot, I ain't have social media, so I ain't have social media. So
The
that was
video
one of the
one.
things. But the video one, it's not YouTube, but
Right,
it's
right, right. I got you.
so yeah. So that's what you can find me on. The conference, I felt that it was needed. So the conference is called the Sustainable Notary Conference. So if you just type in sustainableNotaryConference.com, you'll be able to see exactly what's going on. But we are going to talk about four different pillars. The pillars of just really understand how to work this business. What is business structure? What is funding your business, right? What is a LLC versus a DBA? How to be and scale your business as a notary, right? We're talking about all different type of great things, right? How to automate your business, how to be not overwhelmed, right? In notary. So that's going to be in Northcote, Virginia, downtown at the Hilton Hotel, and it's on Juneteenth. So I'm super
Mm.
excited on that. It's June 18 and 19. And I felt that it would be a great opportunity to bring it in, right? So
Mm.
I'm gonna go to the East Coast, right?
Mm.
Do a conference there. It's a 2-day conference, and we're gonna have a good time because I feel that everything I speak is evergreen, right? Even though it's in the notary industry, but everything I'm talking about when it comes to accounting, business structure, taxes, you just water it down and apply it to any business,
Mm.
right? So most of the time, that's what I'm looking for to
Yes,
just
yes, yes.
educate, even if it's because a lot of notaries they have their own business. They just apply this to that. So when they learn, it's like okay. A lot of people talk about we can get SBA funding, right? Which is small business funding or that we can get business credit, but they don't understand that you got to do some work before you get there, right? You got to be able, you can get a grant. Most of these grant places, they want your articles of incorporation. They want all of this other stuff. You're looking at them like, what? So it's a lot of free money out here. There's a lot of opportunities out here for business owners, but you got to have your stuff set up right. And people not teaching that. They just teaching what they got, right? What they won, what they made, but they're not teaching you from ground zero, right? And so that's what this conference is all about, ground zero and how to scale a business.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned the glamour part too, or you know what I'm saying, when people always show the good side and the positive side, but when you really dive deep into what it actually means as an entrepreneur, you know, people should probably know the whole and complete picture behind that, right?
Absolutely.
So say the website again for the conference, or where people can find more information about it.
Yeah, the sustainablenotaryconference.com. So
Okay,
www.sustainablenotaryconference.com.
got you. Thank you. And are there any final words that you want to leave our audience with?
No, the final words is this guy. Oh man, he's the real deal, you guys. And I just had the pleasure to just be on his podcast and just get to know him because not that many people are rap type, right? And I had to ask him. I said, "How old are you?" Right? And I was like, "Man, like you a younger version of me,
Yeah.
right?" And I'm looking at like my twin on the other side because at the end of the day, your mind is right,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And if only everybody else, mine will be in that same concept,
Mm,
right? It was just some quotes that you just dropped,
mm,
right? Like last week, and I was just
yeah.
wow, I wish I'm writing, right? And so continue to listen to this podcast, you guys. Follow this guy. Anything that he dropped is going to be nothing but golden because I'm telling you, he the real deal. Miss
I
Renee
appre-
don't say that often. Okay.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And two, for those of y'all listening out there, you and I, you know, we had a meeting last week to kind of chop it up and just, you know, just overall plans for the podcast and stuff. And I remember I asked you, you know, I was in Cali at the time, and I asked you, like, you know, are you cool for either like 6 or 6:30 a.m. Now, I'm, you know, an East Coast guy, so that's 9 or 9:30 a.m. So that's, you know, that's most people are up by then, right? The stock market's open by 9:30, so I'm up by 9:30, right? But 6 o'clock, 6:30 LA time, you know, my body was still on Eastern time, but for you to, you know, be up and willing to do that. And again, obviously, you know, you're a person that takes great advantage of your time, but just I think that goes to show how, you know, we both value the importance of, you know, just being here and not, you know, taking anything lightly. So but again, definitely appreciate you for being on the show. And again, y'all, on the Defiant Legacy front, make sure you follow Defiant Legacy on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Theus Elijah on TikTok, the video app, Theus Elijah on YouTube as well. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and check out the online store in the episode's description. And just like that, y'all, we gone. Stay blessed. Peace.